Hello everyone and welcome to the show. This is a video and not a streaming solely because the internet, well, wanted to be uncooperative at the moment. Well, you know, it's a great first impression of the UK, more specifically London, but that will not stop me to just, you know, do stuff, because I've got my bike here over there with like a tablecloth thing, and I've got my cow mug with pretzels. Really good pretzels. Well, anyways, I've got a plan for today. Today we are going to solve the age-old problem of not the Rosetta Stone and not the tomb of whoever, but we are going to solve this. Oh, as you can see, by the way, the site cannot be reached, obviously. So, here we go. Let's make this front and center right on Doggy Lisa's face. So there we go. What can we do with these crazy sentences? This was last time's homework. Well, if you are following the show, that was just a teaser about what we are going to solve. So in this video I'm going to analyze all these sentences, and then I will not give you any more sentences. But the next time I can stream, hopefully next week, then we can create another conversation and a piece of conversation together. Right, now let's go on. So this one is the easiest, probably the easiest one ever, because it means you know, yo, meaning good, reggel is morning, and then we only have to think about the T, and then the rule is yeah, there you go. T, the attachment, is for object mode. Now what is object mode? That's something I invented. That's me. I mean, probably linguists would try to kill me along with other teachers, because there are books about Hungarian. I mean, look at it. No, that's not the right drawer. Here, that's brilliant. Bunch of English books, and what I wanted to show is this one. This clearly explains everything in an orderly fashion, properly, but I use this for practice. Well, not for me, but for my students. However, the thing is that I find, personally, I mean throughout the years, I find that when you take simple expressions and create simple rules, then everybody is much more happier. Like in this case, object mode is a mode of a sentence where there is an object present. Quite simple, I would say. Now, if you have an object in the sentence, presumably you already have a subject and an action. Well, in this case there is not much, because the beginning of the sentence is missing. Even in English, you could say, I wish you, and then the object. Now, the object behaves quite similarly in Hungarian and in English. So there is a connection between the two, and that's what we are going to use or abuse in this case. Because the rule says the T is for the object mode, or more specifically, the T is for the object itself. Oh, wrong. That's even worse. There. That is what I'm talking about. The object. So here's the object, this is what I'm wishing, and then It's just I'm wishing you good morning. That's pretty simple. So there you go. How about this one? Let's see. Again, the first one, I'm not going to repeat myself. That would be overly repetitive. So now we have to figure out what hogy means, which is how, and then vagy. Oh yeah, now that's a pickle. It's a pickle simply because, well, in Hungarian, you cannot expect a verb just to be there as if it was from the dictionary itself. In English, you just cannot do... I mean, you can have that, and you also have to have a pronoun, for instance, like a personal pronoun. But in Hungarian, my point was, which I failed at presenting, my point was that you just cannot expect that in Hungarian. So, what we can do is try to figure out what this could mean. I mean, vagy. In the dictionary, there is a word van. How about this? Yeah. Okay, cool. So van means to be. This is a very horrible code. So now we have to figure out what version of one this is. And if we dig around a little, for instance, now that the internet is slightly back, and then we go to verbix, oh good lord, it's not back, I thought it would be. Well, if we imagine that we dig around in verbix, for instance, luckily for you I already know the language, so I can say that this is the second person version of one, or just second person of one, which is the to be. Now, this is quite good, because even without the internet, we together, you and I, clearly managed to, you know, do the deed. So, what we can do is actually continue our lives as if nothing happened, because this is probably the easiest sentence ever if you think about it. Probably you are already bored of this explanation because you figured out that how are you is what I'm talking about, because second person is obviously you in English. Okay, now that's all good and well. What can we do now? Well, let's go on to the other sentences, because now the conversation went pretty easily and laid back. Good morning, how are you? And probably what we expect is that something like, hey, thanks, I'm fine, which what happens exactly? So Köszönöm is thanks. Now, I guess I should write thank you, because that's how things are. Unfortunately, it doesn't have, this word doesn't have the you part. Also, it's not that informal as thanks would be, but my hands are tied, because Köszönöm could be directed to anyone. It's you or me or 200,000 people, doesn't matter. So I'm going with thanks. Thank you. Now, go on, then jól. Now obviously jól comes from jó. Meaning good, but something happens with it. There is an attachment there, and then clearly we will encounter lots and lots and lots of attachments throughout our lives. However, in this case, it's very simple. It basically creates another type of word, which is my favorite kind of attachment, because allegedly you and I are not too advanced. so we could go into it another time perhaps. So all I have to do now is to tell you that it means well. There. So far so good. You know, thanks, I'm well. And then there is meleg, which is warm, not hot. Then az, which is another version of the, I mean one of the two. And then idő, which means well, either time or weather. It really depends on what preference. Well, by preference I mean context. So yeah. And then we have ma, which is today. So I guess that this is pretty simple. No attachments actually. That's pretty rare when it comes to Hungarian. Normally there should be like 20 million attachments and even more and more attachments. But actually, technically, they can solve this without, you know, going into all these crazy attachments. So then it goes the weather today, or just the weather in an English order, or the weather is warm today. Now please note that I had to put is in there. English compels me to do so. Otherwise I wouldn't ever. Normally I would just, you know, go with my Hungarian mind, doing my Hungarian business, and even that I'm in London, I would, you know, my Hungarian self would continue to be Hungarian without using any verbs if they are not absolutely necessary. But my English part must use verbs. There is no way around it. So let's move on, because that is one long sentence. Oh, good lord. So we already covered ma, and we already covered melegebb, I mean meleg. So that ebb is the equivalent of more, or er in English, meaning you know, better and further, or, you know, well, you cannot really say more expensiver, but then there is more for you. So I'm not going to go into English grammar. We all speak English, at least I think so. Sometimes even I can do that. So let's move on. So now we have one, which we covered already. Meant, it means as or like. It really depends on the sentence actually. And then we have tegnap, which means yesterday. Now that's interesting, isn't it? I mean, what would you say? Would you say that's interesting? I mean, I would definitely say that that's definitely interesting, because even though there is yesterday, a reference to the past in the sentence, this is not a past sentence. It means today is warmer, because I put the EBB attachment on the meleg, which we already established that it means warm. So warm becomes warmer or more warm, but that doesn't make any sense in English, or much sense. So now we have a very interesting sentence using a past tense thing, a word. So today is warmer than yesterday. And then of course, unfortunately, I have to write this here. These are most probably the hardest things a teacher must explain at some time. Simply because, if you think about it, comparing a word for comparison is such an integrated part of the language that you just cannot really do a proper equivalent, you know, like one word on the other language or in the other language. So, well, you know. Right, and now we have Furcsa, which means strange or weird. And then időjárás, finally not a context-based weather, but you have to forgive Hungarian. And manapság is nowadays. Nowadays. Well, there you go. We have all the words. And now everyone could, you know, create a sentence like this in English using the words yesterday, strange, weather, and nowadays. Or, sorry, just the weather, strange, and nowadays. Oh, I was just checking whether you were paying attention or not. So, let's see. I mean, the Hungarian version would start with weird, but obviously in English we can't do that, so that would be what we talk about. This does something. The weather is strange nowadays. So there. Okay, good. And finally, our last endeavor goes into this. Let's do the thing. Igen means yes. I mean, probably you are already aware of that. And then, oh yeah, határ means border. And what I'm going to do here is quite, I would say, quite fun. I'm going to give you the conjugated versions. I mean, all of them. I mean, határ means border, that is the root here. And then, of course, határoz, this side. I'm going to remove these quotation marks. They annoy me, mostly. Okay. And then we can go further. Határozott, which is well, in English would be definite. As you can see, English has such a way of creating different words for different situations. No wonder that there are 2 million words in the English language. I mean, if you have to create one for everything, then, you know, so for, even though Hungarian technically has about, what, 200,000 expressions, and we or words, and we use mostly like, what, 5,000, 10,000, maybe 30,000. It really depends on the person. It always feels more, and that's the reason. That is why it feels more, because with attachments that usually define the same change in the word, I can create all sorts of stuff. I mean, of course, I'm making it easy. I mean, making it look easy, obviously, but in this case, we, you know, time. We have a time constraint, so. And let's do the final one. Határozottan, which is definitely. Oh, good lord. Did I spell that all right? Definitely. Well, let's say that I did. I run the show. You know, I do and can do whatever. And you just have to listen. I mean, normally you could chat, but yeah, not this time. Not with the freakish internet. Well, apparently they say that the technician is coming at some point. So, that's not this point. Let's go on with this. So we did, and then szokatlan. Okay, I'm not going to do this crazy stuff with that. Because technically, yes, I could do that, but it's way weirder. And we can treat it as a separate word, which is out of the ordinary, or yeah, something like that. So in this case, using this, definitely yes, this definitely out of the ordinary. And then let's say Ian, which is this kind of something, what we are talking about. It's a connecting word, so in this case, like this kind of, you know, warm, this kind of warm. And then melegnek, that's just a crazy attachment over there, which we will cover later, but I guess you understand the basic stuff. So this kind of warmth, nam, which means no or not, of course. In English it would be like what shouldn't, but this kind of that. And then szabad. Szabad means free, and then szabadna should be should be allowed. I know, it's crazy stuff. So this kind of warmth should not be allowed to be, because in this case we need to be with ing, but here it's part of the expression itself, meaning that even though there is no verb, lenni just cannot be there alone, because szabad is already there. Oh well, that's actually kind of like a verb. So here we go, just connecting two, like should be allowed to be, if you really want to translate that to English. So should not be allowed to in April. Oh yeah, I should. This out there. I believe that this is our finished product. Now, I will attach it to the description. So I'm not saying that you should have done something like this, but well, you could have done something like this. Well, I mean, obviously I'm making it look easy, so that's fine. And when you are out there in your tiny little dark corner trying to learn Hungarian, it's way harder, because you don't know where you should go and what you should do exactly. There is no kind of control, someone that tells you that no, not that way, not that way, you're going to spend 5 years trying to figure that out, but if you go this way it's 5 minutes. So this is what I'm talking about. But my advice or guideline is that when it comes to analyzing sentences and trying to kind of translate them to your own language, you have to create a list of the expressions that are there, and that's what I did today. And then, using those expressions, you do not actually translate this sentence, but using your list of expressions or words, you create one in English. So the way it works is that you take all the words and you understand them, and then you translate the words to English and analyze all the expressions, and then you create an English word. So it's not a direct line, but sort of like a, you know, like jumping over something, because you just cannot. You cannot do that. Maybe with 5 sentences in the universe, or maybe, if I don't exaggerate, maybe 20 or 1000 sentences you can do that. But most of it cannot be done, cannot be translated like this. So that was the bad news. And alright, and I guess that this would be the end of this, well, internetless streaminglessness of stuff, and then see you next week, hopefully with a proper up and running internet as it should be. So goodbye, and well, look at some cows while I'm slowly but steadily going away. And if you have any questions, please don't be afraid to ask on Facebook or whatever means of like an email or something that you find. Yeah, because you know I have those electronic stuff. Well, alright, goodbye.